Yo, what is up, Hoophead Nation? And this is Buzzer Beaters, a NBA podcast brought to you by grumlingsmedia.com. And we are here in episode 63. And what we're going to go ahead and talk about tonight is, first of all, Nico Harrison firing. Is this the beginning of a lot of things to come for Dallas? We're going to go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah.
And we're also going to talk about the Thunder. I mean, this team is just blowing teams out. They established a record last year of having a net rating of 13.1, which is the best, I think, ever in the history of the NBA. And this team is still missing Jalen Williams. All right, Jalen Williams, Santa Clara Jalen Williams. You know, he's been out. So, and these guys are still rolling. They've only lost one game, and they lost to that one team that, I told you about last year that was kind of my up-and-coming team, which was the Portland Trailblazers, Twan. But anyway, we'll talk about the Thunder. They just beat our Warriors. We also have a second segment. We're always going to go ahead and talk about the NBA first, right? Walk around the NBA. And then we have a dedicated segment to the Warriors. That's going to be the way we do things moving forward. There's always going to be two segments. We're going to cover NBA and then Warriors. All right. So the other thing we're going to go ahead and talk about a little bit is, some of the other teams. Given we have like about 12 games into this young NBA season, which teams do we see are up and coming, right? Which teams do we see that have a slow start? They're going to recover, right? We're going to go ahead and talk about that. And then we're also going to, which team is actually really the worst, right? So far that we have seen, right? It's amazing that the Pacers have been that bad, and they're only really missing one player, although, of course, Miles Turner's gone too, but Tyrese Halliburton has made that much of a difference in that team, man. It's amazing, man. So that's what we're queued up for tonight. Well, before we get into it, bro, how you been, man? What's going on? Anything new and exciting in your world, man?
I've been good. The kitchen's mostly finished. There's a couple of odds and ends, so
sweet,
we're excited
man.
to have our kitchen back.
Right on.
Heading around here.
You're doing a lot of remodeling in your house, bro. You got the kitchen, you got the backyard little bar thing.
Yeah, we did the front, the roof. Yeah, hopefully we're close to done, bro, because this stuff ain't cheap.
Yeah.
This stuff is not cheap. So hopefully we got most of that done. We got our home in somewhat of a setup again. So good.
Right on.
How about you? How's things with you?
Same old. My daughter's flying up, man, tomorrow. So we're gonna go pick her up from the airport tomorrow night, and she's gonna stay here for the weekend. She had to come here for a doctor's appointment, and we just didn't want to break it. So she's flying up for that, and then a few weeks later after that, she's gonna come up again for Thanksgiving, man. Thanksgiving's right around the corner, man.
It is.
So we're gonna go up to my sister's house. Remember when we drove by?
Yes,
when we were going to the draft. We're gonna go have Thanksgiving up there, and so it's gonna be a blast, man. How about you? What do you got going for Thanksgiving, man?
Hosting here. We usually host at our house, so we'll be hosting here in our newly remodeled kitchen. So that'll be exciting. And we have the family over, and it should be good.
Cool, man. Right on, man. All right, man. Well, dude, by the way, just for the audience, we're here live every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We go ahead and take any of your questions. If you've been listening to us, we really appreciate it. But we're going to go ahead and get into it. We try and do this about 45 minutes, up to an hour. We're trying to get it lower, right? Because we've been going a little bit too long. Our producers have been saying, man, you got to cut it down, man. So we're going to go ahead and cut it down for you guys, right? Yep. So right on, man. So let's get into it, man. Okay, walk around the NBA. All right, now we know that Nico Harrison got fired, right?
Oliver North. Call him by his name, Oliver North.
Oliver Nico Harrison North, right? We had a little clip. And this is what Twan's referring to. We did a clip last year where, Twan made a case that he didn't think Nico Harrison should have got fired because he was being the good soldier, following orders of the owners, right?
Correct.
And lo and behold, what's happened is predictably, Luka goes to the Lakers. Lakers are thriving, of course, and Luka's all in shape. He used the motivation of what was being said about him when he left, and he's, he got this new figure now, right? This new NBA figure, and he's still got the same game, right? And then on the flip side, you had Anthony Davis. We know he's a really good player, but we know he's always going to get hurt, bro, right? And he got hurt, right?
Always.
So you have that combined with Kyrie Irving, is out for the season. You have Cooper Flagg, who's the number one pick. He's taking the reins as the point guard. Jason Kidd's experimenting. You got, a pretty decent team, but they're not really doing anything. Klay Thompson looks like a shadow of himself, right? He's not doing anything, bro. And, you got PJ Washington, who's been playing well. Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively's been hurt. It's just that this team has gotten cursed. And the fall guy is Nico Harrison, bro. So I want to go ahead. I set it up for you, bro. Did you see this coming, for one? And was it deserved? Yeah. Let me ask you that.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, I knew that if things didn't work out the way that they wanted, then Nico would be the fall guy. That was clear as day. Okay. I don't know if you listened much to Draymond Green's podcast, but he touched on something that I agree with too. He was not in favor of Nico Harrison being fired, and although Draymond and I don't often share similar opinions, I will agree with him where it's not fair in the sense that Nico never got to see the team that he put together.
Yeah, for sure.
Kyrie Irving, first of all, D'Lo's not a fit. So right off the bat, he's not a fit for that team. I mean, I still think that they should have started him and him playing point guard more than Cooper Flagg has been doing. So that's number one. Right. Number two, you traded for Anthony Davis when you didn't open up the trade market to anybody else, knowing darn well what Anthony Davis's injury history is. Yep. He's an older player. I could argue that when he's on his game and Luka's on his game, that Anthony Davis is every bit as good, if not a little better than Luka. But Anthony Davis is not often on his game because he's always nursing this or nursing that. So that's number two, right? Number three is, like I mentioned, Cooper Flagg, the whole him getting adjusted. You got to give him some time to adjust to the league. You got to give him some time to figure it out. We're 12 games in. If you're going to let go of a GM, why don't you do it during the offseason? Why do you do it 12 games into the season and not even give the team an opportunity? And number four, as you mentioned, Jason Kidd is experimenting. So what happens with experiments? They're successful. They fail. He's trying to tweak and see what fits, what doesn't. So, I mean, I don't think any of this lands on Nico. Obviously, if Nico was GM of the Warriors and he traded Steph Curry, of course I'd be pissed. But at the end of the day, no one does a trade like that without the sign off from ownership.
And you know what the problem here is, Twan? If Luka, let's say, showed up the same way he showed up in Dallas, wasn't in shape, and the team wasn't necessarily doing that well, it still may, I think Nico Harrison would probably have a lot more, leeway essentially before he got fired, right? But what's happened is the Lakers are really playing really, really well, right? Really well. And this is without LeBron and without Luka for a few games. And when Luka's there, he's Luka, right? He's killing it. So I think that's part of what's happened is that you see, like you just mentioned, you're kind of making the analogy if Curry were to get traded away from the Warriors, this fan base would be just going nuts, right? Correct. And Luka was exactly Steph Curry to the Dallas Mavericks, right? I mean, he's on the trajectory even now to be, one of the top players we've ever seen from a statistical standpoint, right? He hasn't won championships yet, and that's what the Lakers are hoping that is going to happen upon his arrival, right? But I think that's what's complicated things, and I think the Dallas fan base is still they're pissed because of, Luka, but they're even more pissed because he's flourishing elsewhere, right? And then you got, all the talk had been in Dallas. Hey, you're making this trade for a guy. Yeah, he's a great defensive player, but man, he's always getting hurt. And sure enough, look at what's happened. 2 years in a row, it's happened, right? Last year it happened early in his tenure as a Dallas Maverick, and then now this year he's been out with a calf strain, right? So there's a problem in Dallas, and it's brewing. And I want to ask you, do you think that there's more to come? Do you think that this is the beginning of a lot more things to come in Dallas? That this is just, you think this is like just Nico Harrison getting fired and he's the fall guy? Or do you think there's other things going to happen?
Well, they're $160 million over the cap. Okay, let's start there.
Okay.
Ownership's not going to want to pay all that tax if the team isn't going to go anywhere.
Right.
So my guess is that they're going to give this probably another 20 games to try to figure it out. And then I think the fire sale is going to start happening. So number one, Klay Thompson, he's like, to me, the definition of trade for that team, right? Because they paid him a lot of money. He's there on 2 years. So he's on his year two of two. So after this year, I believe he's a free agent. So I think they'll look to move him. I don't know what the timeline is for Kyrie Irving. But my guess is that they're probably not going to wait for him to return. It probably will be too late.
You think that they're going to try and fire sale him too?
Possibly, yes.
Okay.
And I think that they're going to try to fire sale one of the three big men.
Oh, they should. I mean, let me
Lively, Gafford, or Anthony Davis.
Okay, so here's this begs the question, right? You brought up Klay Thompson, you brought up Kyrie Irving, you brought up one of the three bigs. Okay, if I were to go ahead and list the most marketable out of those five players that you listed, I would probably say it's going to be Derek Lively, just because he's up and coming big and young and he's springy. I would say in the very bottom of that list is probably Klay Thompson, man. And I hate to say that because I'm a big time Klay Thompson fan as a Warrior fan, right? But you can see the writing on the wall. He's not the same player. And the poor guy, man, he left the Warriors because he thought he had a lot more left in the tank and was trying to chase a championship and thought going to Dallas was his best route at the time because Luka was on the team. And Luka had just taken Dallas to the championship game, right? So to the finals, actually. So then he's like, okay, they're not that far away. I can go to this team. They need my help to shoot. And then shortly thereafter, Luka gets traded, So the poor guy is, seeing, the end of his career coming soon, because I don't think there's going to be many teams that would want him. And if they did, it would be like a team that really, like an Oklahoma City Thunder, maybe, right? They could utilize someone like that, although maybe his defense isn't up to snuff to be on that team, right? But teams like that are already really good that can use some depth, right? That's where I think Klay Thompson fits. But, Derek Lively would be the guy. Kyrie Irving, as old as he is and has injured, with this injury, he still has a market, right? Because he's so freaking good from the ball handling standpoint. Correct. Anthony Davis still has a market, but, the guy who's going to buy him or take him knows that he has a history of injuries. And it doesn't get any better as he gets older, right?
Yeah, so. and they're not going to get back what they traded for. Like, they're not going to get the same.
They're going to get dimes on the dollar, bro.
Oh, absolutely, they're going to get dimes on the dollar. And speaking of Klay, Klay's greatest strength is also his greatest enemy right now, and that is the constant belief in himself. And the stubbornness that he has. And how good he is and what he can do. What's carried him most of his career. Yeah. But I agree. I think at some point here down the line, he's got to figure out. What kind of player he's going to be. And I agree. He's a vet minimum kind of guy now, maybe a mid-level type of guy that could go on a guy on the team where he's maybe the 8th, 9th player on the bench, comes in for a team that needs some shooting. And maybe with lesser minutes, his stroke will be a little more consistent, and where he doesn't have to worry about guarding, anybody on the starting five type of deal. Yeah. But agree with
But the thing is that the Dallas Mavericks have been one of the bigger disappointments in the NBA in this young season.
Might be the biggest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're near the bottom right now. Yeah. And the thing is that they have the number one pick, and everybody thought, man, this was the great opportunity for Cooper Flagg to go right into a situation where they're in win now time, right? And it's not panning out, right? So that's unfortunate. Now, since we're on the Cooper Flagg topic, let me ask you this: would you say he's still the odds-on favorite to be Rookie of the Year?
No.
Okay. No. I don't think so either. But he's got a great situation right now to continue, developing. He's been given the reins, and if the team is patient long term, I think that's a good move for him. But it's a lot to swallow right now, right? I would say right now, VJ Edgecombe has got him beat right now. The other guy that's actually been kind of talked about a lot is Colin Knuppel. And both of these guys are on my fantasy team, by the way. VJ Edgecombe and Colin Knuppel, right? Yes. So, we had this little contest between me and Twan that we picked, players. I have 5 and he has 5, and we, four first round picks for each of us, and then 1 second round guy. And right now, unfortunately, I'm running away with it. We're not going to talk about it today, but I just want to bring up the rookie ladder that was just brought up. And a guy that was just on that list, was our own Will Richard. The 56th pick of the draft. Is actually the 10th guy on the current rookie ladder that the NBA.com went ahead and released recently. He's number 10, right? But Colin Knuppel right now is considered number 1. Cooper Flagg is number 3. So, I would agree. Cooper Flagg's probably slipping, but he's got a lot of time to make up, and he's got the skill set, man. That guy is a good player, man. He does.
The dual timeline thing strikes again, right? Because that's kind of what Dallas was going for, was the dual timeline. You got some veterans, you got some youth, you're trying to mix them both in, and it's not working out. Let me ask you this, Eddie.
Yeah.
At the heart of why it's not working out, why do you think that is? Why do you think they're so disappointing?
Why the Mavericks are so disappointing?
Yeah. What is, if you had to pick a reason, what do you think is your biggest reason for them not living up to their potential?
I think that they don't. I think that the way they are constructed right now, they don't have a point guard, although they have D'Angelo Russell. He's not really a point guard though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he doesn't. He's not a distribute first point guard. He's a more offensive oriented point guard. Although what's interesting, when he came out of college at Ohio State, he actually was known for his passing. And when he first came in the NBA, his passing was pretty good, but he also had a pretty good shot. And I think he became more of this offensive oriented, point guard. He's a big guy, 6'4", but Cooper Flagg's got ball handling skills too. I would say that it's just more the roster construction, man. They have so many bigs, man. They don't have really a small forward that is a good knockdown kind of shooter, because they need shooters. NBA, you need shooters. The NBA right now is 3-and-D, bro. You need a bunch of two-way 3-and-D players. That's what you really need in the league right now.
So
And the Mavericks don't really have that. The Thunder have that in spades, man. All right. And they are the model of, like, we've already talked about this. They're the model of how roster construction is going to be in the NBA for the next 5 to 6 years. Forget the Warriors and how they went about doing it. That's passe now, right? It's all about the way the Thunder did it. Two-way, two-way guys. Two-way meaning good offense, good defense. Guys that are long and athletic that can shoot the three. That's what I'm saying, 3-and-D. So to answer your question, the Mavericks, I think, are not that, and their roster construction is flawed. That's the problem. But they have good players. They're just flawed. They don't really work in cohesion, in my opinion. That's why I think they're failing.
Okay, well, if real quick, I agree with what you said, and on top of that, I would say the inconsistency of injuries, right? So the injuries mess with the time flag. But one thing that I would throw out there, just something to think about, if I'm whoever the GM is at Dallas right now, I might consider maybe trying to bring over John Morant for Lively and somebody else. Maybe someone like Klay Thompson and Lively. I don't know what Memphis is asking for, but there's a point guard, and he's also a scoring point guard, but he's an impact player. He's a one-on-one player. So maybe something like that too, because we're talking about Dallas kind of deconstructing the team or having a fire sale. There's also possibly the opportunity where they make a trade or two that rebuilds their roster into something a little bit different where they'll be more successful.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's more to come here with respect to what's going to happen with that. I think this is the beginning of a lot of things that happen with the.
Yeah,
with the
I think Dallas is going to do a lot of moves.
I don't think Jason Kidd's job is on notice right now. I think they like Jason Kidd, but the GM is the one who gives the roster that the coach kind of makes work together, right? And that's where they were flawed, because the roster construction was flawed. So. All right, man. So let's move on to the next topic. So the Thunder, right? What I wanted to, we've already brushed upon their success, right? They just beat up our team.
They're not even complete, Eddie. They're not even complete yet.
They're not even complete, man. So that begs the question: Are the Thunder better this year than they were last year in their championship season? Are they better?
Yeah, I'd have to say they are. And the only thing that could stop them at this point is fatigue.
But they're so deep. They run 12 deep.
No, I understand. But I'm talking as you get later to the postseason, and they've played now like 2.5 seasons, basically. Maybe they start getting a little worn down. But right now, man, they are unstoppable.
Dude, and the thing is, what's incredible, and we'll talk a little bit more when we get to the Warriors segment, but just using them as an example, they blew out our Warriors last night, right? Yep. The Warriors, it was close for a little while, and then they got it down to 2 points, right? And then they went on this big run. But the thing is that the Thunder are currently missing Lou Dort. They're missing Jalen Williams.
Yep.
They're missing Aaron Wiggins. Okay.
Yep.
They're also missing Kenrich Williams. Okay.
Yes.
These are 4 guys. And then what happens? They don't miss a beat. And the next man up, right? Strength in numbers, right? That's been the Warriors moniker. These guys are doing it in spades. And the thing is that their defensive intensity is ridiculous, man. I mean, they suffocate teams, man. So it's incredible. I see this team being a dynasty like the Warriors were in 2015, right? When they started it. They were very reminiscent. I don't know if you heard Draymond Green's comments, but he was talking about, how this team reminds him of the 2015, 2016 Warriors when they first started their dynasty, right? This team, I think, is made up the exact same way. Their roster construction is genius. Dan Presti is a genius. I mean, they got draft picks galore, bro. They got draft picks galore, and they still are stocking pot. They have, Traore. I forgot, was it Traore? They have some guy. They have some point guard that they drafted 2 years ago. That's still, in the Europe leagues, and that guy was like killing him. Then you got this Barnheiser guy who played last night, and he's playing decent too. The thing is that these guys are already deep enough as it is, and if you can get a guy like a Barnheiser already playing, man, that's saying a lot about this guy's ability. And this guy was like a second-round pick. So I don't know, man. They know how to identify talent. It shows. The proof is in the pudding, man. Their team is stacked, and I don't see this team.
They are, and the only thing
that's losing for a while.
No, I agree with you, but the only thing, I want to kind of rewind a little bit and look at Boston the year they won it, right? And we were like, holy crud, they're going to win like 2 or 3 more championships.
Yeah.
And boom, it all fell apart. Well, not only that, it's not only people getting hurt, but it's also the salary cap, right?
Yeah.
And so, at some point, Jaden is going to want to get paid. Shea's already getting paid. Some of these guys, are going to – Chet Holmgren is probably coming up for a renewal. So do they stay? Do they take a cut? Are they going to pay the luxury tax? Because one thing about Oklahoma, they're historically known for not wanting to go into the taxes, not wanting to pay the luxury taxes. So we'll see how this plays out. But, you're right. If they keep their core and they keep the players and, maybe they'll lose 1 or 2 players every year and they have somebody that they've already identified that's coming in and replacing that, then maybe they can keep this thing going. But the one thing that I would say is the way that the salary structure is and the salary caps are significantly different now than they were in 2015. The Warriors were actually allowed to bring in free agents and grow the team. And, they got Kevin Durant, in year 3 of that dynasty, so those things matter. And so I'm curious to see how the salary cap potentially affects this team. But you're right. On talent alone and what they can do if they go untouched, dude, they're going to win several more championships.
No, I agree. And the thing is that, this team for the most part has been constructed through the draft, right? Yes. They actually did get, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was in a trade with the Clippers, right? And that's, Paul George.
And 5 number ones for them.
Unbelievable, bro. That was like the biggest fleece in NBA history, right?
That's Herschel Walker type robbery.
Crazy, man. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was a free agent, right? Yes. Then you got Caruso that was done in a trade with, the Chicago Bulls, and that has fared well for both teams, right? Then you got Isaiah Hartenstein, right? They signed him as a free agent, from New York. And that guy has made that team really thrive, man. I mean,
he gave him the muscle, right? The muscle of what they didn't have.
It's the dirty work, man. That we were talking about, like how you can stop a Wembanyama, right? If you can deploy 2 athletic bigs, right, against Wembanyama, you can neutralize him. We thought the Phoenix Suns maybe had created this recipe. And what's interesting is that Wembanyama was struggling since that game, right? He hasn't been busting out like those 70-something point fantasy point totals that I was telling you, like what was going on in the first 3 out of the first 4 games. He hasn't been doing that since. And I think, they haven't played Houston yet, but, they haven't played the Oklahoma City Thunder. But the teams like this, they can deploy a big who can guard him on the outside and then keeps a big in the back to kind of defend against everybody else who might slash, right? Yeah. And that's where I think that's kind of what's the evolution. We have a clip on that too, a short that's talking about, the NBA evolution, the dawn of the big man coming back, right? Yeah. And I think that's what's happening is that you're seeing that with teams that the success of Oklahoma City Thunder, the success of the Houston Rockets, right? Guys like this that have these athletic, long guys. Dallas Mavericks, you could argue have that, right? They need other guys around that too, right? So
I would argue that the dribbling skill on Dallas's 3 big men isn't as good as like Chet Holmgren or Wemby or some of those those. That's to me the most impressive part is their ball handling skills as 7-footers. Kevin Durant was probably the first of his kind like that because Kevin Durant has excellent ball handling skills. And for a big man, and so that really is, the 3-and-D, but also the big that can handle the rock.
Yep, man. So I see a lot of good things to come for the Thunder moving forward. I think this team is just stacked, and they're going to be a problem. They're going to be the Warriors' dynasty again, all over again, in my opinion. Yeah. So, all right, let's go to some of the other. Let me ask. So we have some teams that are up and coming, right? So I kind of touched upon, right now the teams that have been doing better than people thought. We already talked about the Sixers. All right, the Sixers are doing a lot better. We talked about the Bulls last week, but you thought they were a mirage, and they have fallen back down, right? So that was a pretty good call on your part. But then you got the Suns, dude. The Suns are playing actually pretty well. All right, they're dealing. They're playing pretty well. You got the Jazz, the Suns, the Sixers, and then the other team that I called out before the season started were the Raptors. Okay, these teams all are doing pretty well right now, better than we all anticipated. Right. So let me ask you this. Out of these four, the Suns, the Jazz, the Raptors, the Sixers, which team or teams do you see has staying power, that this is not a mirage, that these guys are actually going to be better than you think? We're not talking about championship level guys, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking that. We're just talking guys that are actually doing pretty well, better than everybody projected, and that you see them continuing this trajectory. The Suns, the Jazz, the Raptors, and the Sixers. What are your thoughts, bro?
Of the four, I would pick between the two East Coast teams, which is the Raptors and the Sixers. I think both of those teams have the staying power for two reasons. Number one, it's an easier conference, right? Number two, I think that the players they have are a little bit more experienced, with the exception of Devin Booker on Phoenix, than other teams. The other teams are just newer. They got, and as you know, like rookies hit walls, rookies begin to get tape filmed on them. And, they start changing the way they have to play defense. So I think that some of the newer folks, obviously Jalen Green had himself a pretty good game for Phoenix, I just think it's a tougher conference in the Western Division. So I would go with either the Raptors or the Sixers. And between those two, I'm going to say the Sixers, but with the caveat that Embiid could really mess this up.
No, I know. I agree. And the thing is, Edgecombe and Maxey have been balling out. Then you got, Kelly Oubre, he's been playing well. You got Quentin Grimes playing very well. You have, then you have Embiid, who's kind of been in and out of the lineup, but they have Andre Drummond, who spells, Embiid when he's hurt. So this team has actually done a lot better. And I agree with you. I think they're the team amongst these four that are going to be the ones that are, going to be continuing the climb and stay, towards where their trajectory. The Suns, I think, will be, they're proven to be a better team than we all anticipated, right? Mark Williams being on there when they lost DeAndre Ayton, I think that's a good move, a good backfiller, right? But Grayson Allen has just balled out recently, man. Devin Booker, hasn't really had to have that scoring load on him that he's had in the past. Then you got, Jalen Green. We shall see. He just started playing, but this team is a lot better than people think. You got Ryan Dunn, who's the draft pick from last year. Very good 3-and-D type guy, although he's more of a D guy than a 3 guy. But he's actually pretty good.
Physical guy, really physical.
Yeah, physical. Yeah, he is. And so I would say that the Suns are going to be. I believe that they're going to be continuing the trajectory where they're not going to fall back down to where everybody thinks. I think they're going to be right in line where they're at, maybe a little higher. The Jazz are another team that they're surprising me, man. They're not necessarily, from a standing standpoint, they're not necessarily like, killing it, but they're the 10th seed right now. They're 4-7, right? And we, before the season began, we had them near the bottom. They're the 10th seed right now. It's still early, but they're actually playing very well. You have Keontae George, who's been doing, and they're doing, by the way, they're doing all this without Walker Kessler. Okay, so say it again.
Out for the season.
Yeah, I know he's out for the season, right? So they're actually playing pretty dang well. And then they got Isaiah Collier back, and then they lost Colin Sexton, and then they have Filipowski who's been playing. They have Yusuf Nurkic. Remember, they got him too. This team is actually playing pretty well as a cohesive unit. So, but I like your call, the Sixers. I will say the Suns. All right, let's move on to the next one. So we have 3 teams right now that are kind of scraping the barnacles right now of the NBA, right? We have the Indiana Pacers, okay? We have all these teams are 1 wins. The Indiana Pacers, the New Jersey or Brooklyn Nets, previously New Jersey, and then you have the Washington Wizards. Out of these 3, who is truly the worst?
Well, statistically speaking, it's the Wizards.
For sure.
Historically,
from a net rating standpoint, yes.
Historically speaking, it's the Wizards.
Well, but you know what's interesting from a net rating standpoint, they're not the worst right now. The worst are the Brooklyn Nets from a net rating standpoint. They're net negative
Okay.
15.39. The Nets are. The Wizards
Okay.
are negative 15.08. Okay, they're not as bad, but they're pretty dang close. The Indiana Pacers are a negative 11.98. They're 27th. Okay, the Pacers are. The 29th is Washington Wizards, and the 30th are the Brooklyn Nets. This is net rating. There's one team that I did not went ahead and disclosed. Can you guess who that might be?
The one team that's also in the bottom?
Yes.
I'm going to go the Pelicans.
Exactly, the Pelicans. And that's surprising. Dude, I mean, they got Jordan Poole, right? They got Trey Murphy. They got freaking Yves Missy. They have, always hurt Zion Williamson, right? I mean, this team should be way better. Of course, they don't have DeJounte Murray. They have, Alvarado. They have, some guys, Derek Queen, they got him from the draft. They had another guy that they drafted too from the draft, Jeremiah Fears. These are two guys that they drafted, right? And, you would think that this team would be better, but they're not, man. And it's like, do you see any of these guys getting better? Or do you see?
I see the Pacers finding a little bit of a groove and getting used to playing without Halliburton, so I see them. I think they're not as bad as their record.
Right.
Brooklyn, they're just, that's no man's land. And the Wizards and the Pelicans, they're going to be really close in record. And the Pelicans, I really don't know why. Like you said, they've got talent. They should be winning. Jordan Poole got relegated to the bench, which is now, kind of the second team that's done that to him. Third team, if you count the Warriors.
Right.
So, that guy is just not living up to his potential at all. And so to me, I think the worst of the bunch is probably the Wizards, is the way that I would go.
Yeah, and I think so too. I mean, the Pacers, they're not this bad. I mean, they're way better than this right now, man. It's just, I don't know what it is, but, Isaiah Jackson came back and he's actually been playing pretty well. Pascal Siakam has been playing well for them as well. Aaron Nesmith is another guy who I like on that team. Andrew Nembhard, right? A really good player, man, out of Gonzaga. He's another guy. And then you got TJ McConnell who just came back. We all like TJ McConnell, right?
Yep,
he's a really good player. So, but the thing is that they just, for whatever reason, are not. I mean, they're the only win is against the Warriors, right? So we were thinking, how does the Warriors lose
I'm
this
rudely
team, right?
aware.
Yeah, right. So, but anyway, man. So, but that's it for as far as the walk around the NBA. We're kind of already 30 minutes into this, and we still have to talk about our second segment. And we are, like I mentioned, every week we're going to go ahead and take a walk around the NBA and talk about various topics that are pertinent from the last week.
Real quick on a walk around the NBA. I don't know if you saw, but Bradley Beal's out for the season.
He's out for the season with a hip. That's right. I forgot. I did forget to mention that.
So if we want to talk about disappointing teams, I mean, the Clippers are 3-7.
They are very much so,
and they're in my opinion a scary team, but they're a year older, like the Warriors. Kind of the Geritol gang. So we'll see how that plays out, but.
And that is really the only real difference on that team, really. It's just that they got a year older, because last year they were competing, man. They were kind of like our under the radar team that kind of go to the finals, right? And they took Denver pretty far. They gave them up to Game 7, and then Denver went ahead and outlasted them, right? Yeah. And so, but anyway, so yeah, I agree with you. We should have brought Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal, unfortunately, he's been marred with injuries for the past couple of years. But anyway, so
this is the last year of his contract, right? He's a free agent.
I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure.
I want to say he is, but I'm not 100%.
Right. Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure, man. But all right, man. So we got essentially maybe 20 minutes, max. We're already at 35 minutes. But we're gonna go into our weekly Warriors segment, and these are the topics. The Warriors are our team, and the question I want to pose to you, bro: have the Warriors become predictable? Or is it that they need players? And do they need more time to gel? These are questions I'm throwing at you. Then the other thing is, last year when we traded for Jimmy Butler, we both hated the trade, but it did something. The team actually went ahead and responded, right? And then we're thinking, oh man, for that period of time, they were playing that great, and now we have them for a full season. Wow, we can't wait to see what happens. They went ahead and signed Al Horford, to make the whole Geritol gang here, and for the first 5 games, they were 4-1 and played some really good teams and beat them. and we're thinking, oh, they beat the Lakers, they beat the Clippers, they beat the Nuggets, right? We're thinking, oh man, this team is legit. And then they went ahead and lost 5 of the next 7, right? So, so let me ask you something, bro. What is the problem, man? What is your view of what's the problem with the words right now? Is this like a temporary thing, or do you think this is something that's the way that they're constructed is the problem?
So problem number one is they lost Curry a couple of games.
Yep.
To sickness. He was ill.
Yep.
If you remember last week or the week before, we were talking about Jonathan Kuminga.
Yep.
And Jonathan Kuminga is playing this new style, and I told you I had a boss that used to tell me, you can shave a leopard spots, but they always grow back. Those spots are starting to grow back. That's problem number one.
Okay.
Problem number two, one of the biggest concerns I had when we traded for Jimmy Butler was the personalities between Butler and Draymond Green.
Yes.
And my fear was that they would be butting heads. But, and obviously, I'm sure you heard it last night, and it's been all over the media. Draymond has been kind of saying players with their own personal agenda is not in line. And then there's been speculation whether he's talking about Pods, whether he's talking about Kuminga, whether he might be talking about somebody else, right? And then kind of Jimmy Butler kind of supported that. So here's my problem. Number one, Draymond, shut up. You're out of shape. Your defense has really been not that great.
Yes.
Your 3-point shots have been better, but we don't have you for your 3-point shooting, right? So the thing that bugs me about the Draymond Green statement isn't that he's wrong, because he potentially is not. What bothers me is he doesn't look at himself first. He hasn't been pulling his own weight that he has been, and maybe Draymond can't anymore. His body, his size, his knees. At some point, the age is going to catch up with him, and it's going to catch up with him quicker than it will with Curry, because just Curry's a smaller guy and is historically in better shape.
Yeah.
So that's number one. But when Butler supported him, now I'm getting worried, dude, because this is how Butler starts when he starts getting unhappy. He starts pointing the finger at other players, starts saying, you're not lining up, you're not doing what we're supposed to, and then and with the two of them, it could be like the super magnifier, right?
Yes.
So I am concerned about that. But I do think Kuminga is limited. I do think that, he's what we saw earlier was him, coming straight out of training camp, receiving the message, ready to go. But little by little, he's trying to do it. Pods to me has been a little okay. He's been forcing the issue.
He's hit and miss. He's hot and cold. He's hot and cold. The majority of this team is hot and cold. That's the problem, bro.
Yeah, but to me, Eddie, he's not a starter. He should not be a starter.
Rotation guy.
Yeah, on a good team, he's not a starter. If you saw today, it was really interesting because Kerr did what I thought was the right move, which is he started both Moody and Will Richards.
Well, they deserved it, man. They've been playing their butts off, man. Yeah,
correct. And now, and right off the bat, this has kind of been my argument all along. Like Kuminga's like, give me a chance, show us you can do it. Will Richards, the perfect example. Why would Will Richard get more of an opportunity than Kuminga? He shouldn't. He wouldn't, but he's doing what he's supposed to. And that's been my concern about Kuminga all along. He doesn't understand the flow of what's happening and how to best contribute. He thinks that his identity is his one-on-one execution, and that's where he's at his best. So he tries to, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? And so he's just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Going back at it. And like, work on your rebounding, work on your passing, work on your defense. You do these things, you will be an elite athlete. Because Will Richards is a very good defensive player, which is why he's out there. And his stroke happens to be hitting. But if at some point his stroke drops, his percent, I think he's in the 41 percentile. If it drops, you still have his defense. You still have his ability to know when to cut the lane. You still have like 2 or 3 other things you can hang your hat on. When Kuminga's driving goes away and his three-pointer's not hitting, it's like he starts to like doubt himself and he starts to like not play to his potential. Yeah. So to answer your question in terms of question number one, have they become predictable? Yes, because this team completely revolves around Steph Curry. And if Steph Curry isn't playing at an elite level, these guys can't pick up the slack.
So let me give you my input on this.
Yeah.
So you brought up personnel, right? You specific personnel that could be contributing to the problem. It's all part of the problem.
Yep.
In my opinion, what I see is an offense that's predicated on players that read and react and make the right play. So high basketball IQ is in need for this type of an offense, right? But it's also predicated on guys being able to hit shots. And this team is not hitting shots, bro. I think this team right now, the way that the offense is constructed is kind of the way it was when they had shooters, right? And they haven't really changed. I get so frustrated watching these guys play sometimes because they hardly do any cutting to the basket. And when they do it, it's successful. And you would think they do. Then what happens when they're successful, there's an opening for a three-pointer, and then they clank, clank, clank. Dude, I mean, the way this offense is architected is around Steph Curry's shooting ability, but it's also predicated from the past of having another knockdown shooter like a Klay Thompson. Buddy Hield was supposed to be that guy. Buddy Hield is the pure definition of hot and cold, right?
Yes.
Their whole roster is, other than Curry, is hot and cold players. The only guy, in my opinion, that has showed that he's pretty consistent outside of Curry as a shooter is Quentin Post, right? He's the only one. Now you got this Will Richard who seems to have a pretty good shot too, right? But man, that's a problem when you have like two, first year and second year guys. Although Quentin Post technically is a rookie this year, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, right? But he is technically a rookie. But when you have these guys being your second best shooter, man, this team is constructed of a bunch of guys that have been in the league longer than that, right? I mean, so Buddy Hield, he's not shooting well. Yeah, Moses Moody, who's another hot and cold guy. This whole roster is hot and cold. So why are they predictable, in my opinion, is because everybody knows if you kind of can guard the perimeter, this team is toast, right? Because they don't do anything down low. They don't cut enough to do anything down low. They just don't. So I sit here and watch them. I get frustrated because all they do is just try and wait for them to get hot, right? We're going to get hot eventually and start shooting. And they do, but then they're a hot and cold team, man. So that's what's frustrating is when I watch this, is that their whole offense is predicated on the perimeter shooting, and they don't have the personnel right now to be able to run that offense effectively. I think they need to change that offense in some way. The read and react is a great way of doing it, but you can't have everything just being outside shooting. That's the problem, in my opinion. They need to drive to the basket more and get more free throw opportunities, man. They don't do that enough at all, man. And that's what frustrates me about the Warriors.
Yeah, as you say that, the one thing that stuck out in my head is, everyone emulates Steph for his three-point shooting.
Yeah.
But Steph is the best cutter on that team.
Yes.
He is and no one emulates that.
No, I mean, it's frustrating, man, because nobody does cut, I mean, what's his name does it sometimes, Draymond Green, but dude, that guy is a clanker of a layup shooter, man. Unfortunately, he's not blessed with the finishing ability, right?
Well, it's not only that, busy crying foul before he's even released.
Yeah, he does that a lot too, man. But I love Draymond Green as a player, dude. And you've always heard me say this. He's one of my favorite Warriors as a player, man. And his antics can get in the way sometimes, but he's a motivating type of guy. He makes people play hard. He holds people accountable. I love all that stuff as a leader, but sometimes he can go over the edge, right? But as a player, his basketball IQ is off the charts. His defense is off the charts. It's just that you have to kind of design an offense to predicate to enhance the abilities of players and their skill sets. They're really good skill sets. And Draymond Green isn't like a layup guy. He's a facilitator, right? But I see him doing a lot of the cuts too because he does it out of necessity because nobody else is doing it, man. Jimmy Butler does it too sometimes, right? But there should be a lot more of that, man. And they're just frustrating me, man. So that's my thing. So let me ask you this. The other question I want to ask you, man. So what has changed since Jimmy Butler has arrived, right? Let me ask you that. Is it what everything that we're talking about? Do you think that there's like you mentioned, do you think that the leadership of Jimmy Butler combined with Draymond Green is creating this chasm now in the locker room where the young guys are feeling alienated a little bit? I mean, what are your thoughts, man?
I think it's as simple as this, Eddie. Steph Curry goes out, this team falls apart. Steph Curry comes back, the team is a playoff team. They all, like you said, that whole offense is not only predicated on Steph Curry's shooting ability, it's predicated on his presence.
Yeah.
These players, the other thing is, one thing I find frustrating about Jimmy Butler is he never, yes, he's very slow, very deliberate, never seems,
Methodical.
it never seems urgent. Like he never wants to take on more than whatever's given, even when the situation calls for it.
Yeah.
When Curry's not there, he needs to be the points leader. He absolutely has to do that. And he's not. He's like whatever develops. And I commend him for his patience, but that ain't happening. Those guys can't do it. Maybe Will Richard could be able to, but I don't see Brzezinski can't get open. Kuminga, if he has any type of athletic person in front of him, he can't. Right? He can only smoke the people that are not as athletic as him, which I could argue is a big worry because at some point his athleticism is going to start to slow down, and then what happens to the player? Then he's just not going to be. So he's a really curious case in a lot of fronts. Moody is so hot and cold. He is just so like
the whole team is though, bro.
Yeah, there are times I'm watching him and I'm like, dude, Moody could be the second best player on this team. But then I watch it, I'm like, dude, Moody's the worst player on this team. It's like dude, what do you do? I don't understand. But to me, Jimmy Butler is the one that's got to take more action and do it. So to me, the biggest difference between this year and last year is I think they're becoming acutely aware that without Curry, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And so when Curry isn't available, they fall apart. And I think Butler is sort of lining up with that.
Yeah, but I think in order for them to be a team that they think they can be, they need to learn how to play without him.
I agree.
And figure out a way to work together without him. Last night's game against the Thunder when they got blown out, and the whole second half was featuring a lot of the bench guys, right? And a lot of and I think that game last night is how Kerr rewarded Will Richard and Moody because both those guys played very well. But another guy that I thought played very, very well that I think deserves a lot more playing time is Pat Spencer, bro.
I talked about him last week.
Pat Spencer is a player, man. And very athletic, strong guy, gritty, can handle the ball pretty well. He's a decent passer. Yeah, does he make turnovers? Everybody makes turnovers in the NBA, right? But I
makes turnovers on this team.
Yeah. yeah. But I think he deserves playing time for sure, right? So I would say
Eddie, I could argue with you. I can make an argument why he should play more than Pods.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you because he does everything better than Pods, other than take charges. Okay,
correct.
That's the only thing that he doesn't do as well as Pods is that he can shoot better, he can handle the ball better, he makes better decisions, less turnovers, right? I think, and he's strong, dude. He's a strong dude, right? I mean, he's an all-time lacrosse player. He's considered the Michael Jordan of lacrosse. So
and he plays in control.
Yeah. So I think they need to play him more, man. That's my call. So all right. Good. So let me ask you the last question before we kind of end the podcast. So do you think that the Warriors need new players or just more time to gel and figure it out?
No, I think the Warriors need to make some moves.
Okay.
And I honestly think that I'm looking at Pods. I'm looking at GP3. Now I'm starting to look at Buddy Hield, although we didn't talk about him much. And I'm starting to look at Kuminga. And I'm starting to think that those four guys, we need to start identifying what we can get back from them.
Okay, that's not a bad call. I think that most teams would probably look at a lot of these guys as guys that are kind of like scraps from the Warriors, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is, see what you can get, but I'm really worried that, obviously Kerr and the organization loves Pods. I'm really worried they're going to give him some sort of contract, because I think next year he's eligible. And I don't know. He's just not good enough, man.
And did you see he made the comment that he wants to be better than Curry? Did you hear about that?
Well, you're already 2 years behind. It ain't.
I mean, you got to give the guy for him believing in himself. And maybe he's using it as a motivating factor to kind of make him believe that he can do it, right? I mean, that's the first thing is you got to believe in yourself, bro, to do anything, right? Because, one of the things that you hear when you're growing up, you can be anything you want, man, as long as you put your mind to it, right? Well, he's putting that moniker to the test.
Yeah,
bro.
but I will tell you this: no great player has ever started saying I'm better than so and so.
Yeah.
Every great player stays quiet and lets
Yeah.
his team do the talking.
Yeah.
And and like for
That's
example, when Mark Jackson said, "I've got the best shooting backcourt in the history of the NBA," that wasn't Clay saying it. That wasn't Steph saying it. That was his coach saying it. Yep. And everyone ridiculed him, and now everyone's going, you know what? He was probably right. That probably was the best shooting backcourt in the history of the NBA. But what I'm saying is with Paz, I appreciate but that also is what hurts you because you got to let other people tell you you're great.
I agree.
Don't ever tell the people you're great.
Just
don't do that.
Yeah,
no one wants to hear it. And of course, the other teammates are going to roll. I don't know if you saw, but Anthony Slater's like the team rolled their eyes. And
they did.
Come on, dude. Like,
they probably know that he probably does this stuff all the time in practice, man. He's probably doing, I'm the man, dude, right, or whatever it is. Yeah. And they're like, whatever, bro. Right, shut up.
Whatever. Nice try, Skippy. Go on to the next one. But so we'll see. I do think they need to make a move. They do need to get some bigs. If we can get one of the, I'm thinking maybe Gafford or something like that from Dallas.
Well,
dude, for some of these
players. There's one that can get for somebody for free right now, bro. I'm surprised that they haven't gone after James Wiseman. Why not? They drafted him. Why not?
No,
he's
free. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, I agree. We need to start getting bigger. We need to start. There's just things we need to do, and we'll see. We'll see. I'm checking in on the score right now. The Warriors were up a point.
Oh,
now they're up 6. So
now
they're
up big. They're up big.
They're up 6.
Oh, they're up 6. Well, hey, man, we gotta sign off here so we can watch the game.
Yeah.
So, hey, before, since you brought up the game right now, did you see that stat that was brought up during the game about Wembanyama in the first 127 games, dude? Did you see that?
No. What was the
stat? Dude. Okay, they had a stat where they had a page of, I wish I took a picture and put it on this podcast, but I'm gonna go ahead and try and remember. I don't know the exact numbers, okay? But in the first 127 games, he has more points than Jordan did in the same amount of time. Okay. He has more rebounds than Karl Malone in the same period of time. 127 games. He had more blocks than Olajuwon in the first 127 games of these are all the first 127 games of all of these guys I'm mentioning in their career, how Wembanyama's stacking up. And get this. He's got more 3-pointers than Steph Curry does at the same period in the first 127 games of Steph Curry's career.
Do you know if that's 127 games played?
Played.
Because Jordan was out a year with an ankle. So,
played, bro.
Okay. That's scary.
That's scary, man. Because
is.
You look, that's a year and a half, honestly, bro. Because you look, there's 82 games in a season, right? And in 41, that's pretty close to 120. It's 123. Yeah. So 4 games after that, that's 127 games.
Yeah. The only one that I would throw there is Steph Curry wasn't exactly Steph Curry in the first year and a half.
He wasn't. But
Quentin Post had more made threes in his rookie year than Steph Curry did. So
but that's still.
But the fact that he's the leader in all 4 of those,
correct,
was freaky.
That's amazing.
But Olajuwon was a defensive beast from the get-go. Jordan was the scorer from the get-go.
Yes.
And who was the other one?
Malone.
Yeah, and Malone was a freaking rebounding machine from the get-go.
Correct. And then Curry is the best 3-pointer shooter we've ever seen.
So that's
isn't that crazy, bro? Yeah, that's crazy. So I know you recorded the game, bro. So go back and look for that thing and you just take a picture of it. And it's like, oh my God. But anyway, man. All right, bro. Hey, so we are at almost 55 minutes. This is episode 63, and we really appreciate you listening in. We're here live every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We're here live because we want to take your questions, all right? And we haven't had any questions here recently in quite some time. But, we're here to cover any questions that you may have. We covered, the whole NBA. Like, we're going to do this every week. We have the segment just dedicated just on the NBA. We're going to talk about everything that's NBA, and then we're going to go ahead and dovetail into the Warriors weekly segment that we're going to talk about nothing but Warriors. This is our team. You can see we're totally flashing our shirts and our emblems and all that, man. So, but anyway, we're here every week. We really appreciate it. This is Buzzer Beaters episode 63, and we are going to go ahead and sign off.